There's just so much.
You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on.
I was actually thinking, why do a podcast? Like, why do I want to talk about it? Because I don't really need to feel good about myself. So it's interesting, but I thought it's a form of therapy maybe.
From Mamamia, I'm Mia Friedman, and you're listening to No Filter. And today we're talking to the Blue Wiggle, Anthony Field, who turned up for this interview at Mamamia in his big red car. He actually came up in the lift, I'm just kidding. But he was wearing blue shoes. If you don't know the Wiggles, who even are you? The Wiggles are iconic.
Hello everybody, we're the Wiggles. I'm Greg.
I'm Murray.
I'm Anthony.
And I'm Jeff.
Hot potato, hot potato. Hot potato, hot potato. Hot potato, hot potato. Potato.
We're making some fruit salad. Everybody's helping.
Fruit salad, yummy, yummy. Fruit salad, yummy, yummy.
It's not often that kids entertainers worm themselves into the zeitgeist of generations. I mean, I watched Play School and Sesame Street for sure. I loved Snuffleupagus and I wanted Miss Bonita to be my mum. But the Wiggles, they're rock stars. They still play concerts for kids today, but also for adults who grew up singing Fruit Salad and Bear Is Now Asleep, who turn up in their thousands with their adult mates to do all the moves and sing at the top of their lungs. Not in a piss-takey way at all, but because it feels somehow comforting. Songs from your childhood can be like that when you hear them years later, like a fun hug and a mental holiday. They take you back to when your biggest problem in life was that you really didn't want to have a daytime sleep because you wanted to keep playing with Lego. I didn't grow up with the Wiggles, but my kids did. And with the hours and hours and hours and hours that I had to spend watching the Wiggles and going to their concerts, I became fascinated by what went on behind the scenes with Jeff and Murray and Greg and, of course, Anthony, the mum's favourite and one time Cleo Bachelor of the Year. I always wanted to know, how did the Wiggles work as a business? And how did they go about their normal lives, you know, going to doctor's appointments and dating, having their own kids or going to see a therapist, or when they had to buy something embarrassing at the chemist, you know, when there'd be all these kids and parents losing their shit and bursting into fruit salad yummy yummy at the mere sight of Anthony or Greg or Murray or Jeff, and then later Emma and Lockie and Simon. What I didn't realise until this conversation with Anthony is how tough things got. The debt, the depression, the panic attacks, the way the public turned on the Wiggles and how they very nearly lost all of it. But they didn't. They built back up, they reinvented, and Anthony's been the one that has driven all of that creatively. You know, he still wears the blue skivvy, and so does his eldest daughter Lucia now. She's a Wiggle too. I'll be honest, I expected Anthony to be a bit guarded because he's been in this game for a really long time. He's been a celebrity for decades. But he was the opposite of that. He said I could ask anything, which of course I did. And true to his word, he answered every question. You're about to hear some stories he's never told before, and you are going to come away with a whole new understanding of the man inside the blue skivvy. Here is Anthony Field. I've got this theory about people who are really famous and then they get older and people's reactions to it. Like when I heard that you were 60, you 60?
Yeah, 60, yep.
I was like, oh my God. And that's actually not about you, it's about me. You know, it's the same reaction people have when they hear I'm a grandmother. They're like, oh no, you're not a grandmother. And it's like, because it means we're all getting older, right?
Yeah, I must admit, getting 60s, you get a half price on the bus and all that stuff.
You're a senior now. So, get a special card.
Senior. And when you turn 50, you get that test from the government for bowel cancer.
Yeah, that's fun.
They're all affirmations.
There's a lot of dignity in growing older, is there?
It's great. Yeah. No, and all sorts of things happen to you medically. I think not to everyone, but you start falling apart.
Yeah. You look a lot fitter now than you did when you were in your 30s.
Yeah.
Did you have a moment where you seemed to suddenly get buff and ripped?
I did. I was in
Was
America.
it like a middle-aged man thing?
No, it wasn't a middle-aged. Well, I hope it wasn't. It was more of I was really overweight and really depressed. And I spoke to this guy in America, this doctor who said to me, you can go the short term and give you some pills and then you'll be feeling bad again. So he said, mate, look into natural ways of getting fit. So that's why I did it. I was inspired and it helped me on the road because it was like I did a prison workout and it was kind of like it was all body weight stuff, So I lost 18 kilos then when I was, and wow. I didn't do it. It wasn't American Beauty or anything like that.
How old were you then? In your 40s?
Oh, I was just 41, 42, yeah.
You say you did a prison workout because one of the hardest things about travelling, I imagine, would be you're sleeping somewhere different all the time. You don't necessarily have access to a gym.
Yeah, it's true. And I became a bit obsessed with it, but not anymore, but I did. I used to hang a bar for pull-ups in the door frame of the hotel wherever we were staying inside where the bathroom is. And it was the first thing I did.
Yeah.
And then when we'd have a break from our shows, I'd go and be working out. I think it just helped me cope with everything, But it probably didn't help me cope with everything because I was just throwing myself into exercise. But, the endorphins are good.
I do exercise every day as well and have done for decades, and I never really understood why until I was diagnosed with anxiety about 10 years ago. And then I realised, that's why. They say for depression and anxiety, that's one of the best sort of lifestyle things you can do. Did it help for you, exercising? It helps for me.
It did. I used to have panic attacks. And they're funny looking back on them, although it wasn't funny at the time. Like once I was driving everybody in the car over what's the big bridge in Melbourne?
The big bridge. I know what you mean. I don't know what it's called. That big bridge.
Yeah, that one. And I had a panic attack as I was driving and I stopped the car in the middle of the bridge and went, I can't drive anymore. Or I'd be riding my bike over the Gladesville Bridge and I'd have a panic attack and go, the bridge is going to fall down. So I'd stop. I'd get off the bike, just be there, curled up in a ball. And
wow.
It was that bad. Anxiety was just taking over. Or we'd be about to get on a plane. I'd go, I can't get on. This one's the one.
This one's going to fall out of the sky. Yeah. I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned bridges, planes. My anxiety first it was planes. After I became a mum, I was fine, loved flying. Then it was like planes, terrified of flying. Then it moved to health anxiety. So I would always think I have cancer. Did your anxiety move from thing to thing?
Oh, no, it was pretty well bridges. Any bridge I went over, I'd psych myself up in the car. And some of the bridges around the world are massive.
Yeah.
And
hard to be on because when you tour, you are often on a bus, right?
We used to do buses or we do vans. So sometimes when I'm driving a van, but it was planes.
But you're on the road.
Buses. Okay, when we're in the bus, even then, I would tell everybody to race up the back because we're going to crash into something.
Oh, wow.
And they'd all
would they humour you?
They'd all kind of laugh and I was serious. It was always fun.
When you told everyone to race up the back, because the thing I've learned about anxiety that helps me is when people not laugh at you in a mean way, but in a Anthony's being crazy about the bus crashing again. And I like that too.
I appreciate that. It makes you go, maybe I'm.
Yeah.
My kids, whenever there's a kids' playground, but they're old now, but like 20 and 17, but when they were little kids, I couldn't watch children playing because I thought they're going to fall off. Yeah. I'd have to walk away. And I didn't want to scare my kids, so Mickey would take over at the playgrounds.
Yeah.
So I just walk away, and it still freaks me out.
Yeah.
Like Simon and Lauren bring their little boy Asher, and they can see me looking away.
Because you get really anxious.
They're fantastic, responsible parents, but I just I just think
because you imagine the things
something's going to
right?
happen to them. Yeah, the kids. Yeah.
And I would try to explain to people that when you have anxiety, if it is you're thinking about a particular thing like a bridge collapsing or a plane crashing or having cancer, it's not that you're worried that's going to happen. It's that you know it is going to happen and you are in that moment of absolute sheer terror.
absolutely.
Because it almost even in a way feels like it has happened.
Yeah.
And you're just waiting for it to actually happen.
That's it, yeah. Right now, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about me going over a bridge on a bicycle.
I don't mean to make you panic. Like,
No,
are you all right?
I'm good. Yeah, I see a psychologist. I'm still on antidepressants. My doctor said to me, you're going to be on these for the rest of your life, which I thought, maybe I won't be, I'll try not to. And the times I have taken myself off, I've cried for 2 months and, I think
So what's the point? Like, it's like a diabetic saying, I'm just going to try and live without insulin. So have you stopped trying to get off them?
The back of my head, there's always that moment. But I was just remembering one time I turned up to my doctor at 8 o'clock in the morning and I thought I was having a heart attack, which I wasn't. And I said to him, I've got my wallet in case you need to identify me. That was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's how crazy it is. So
it's really hard to explain to someone the crazy.
Yeah.
And in a way, sometimes you don't say anything because you're like, if I say it out loud, it'll be more real.
When I'm physically doing something, I have to talk. Yeah. But sometimes I get lost into I can't speak sort of thing. But
why did you decide to speak out about your mental health?
My brother Paul said it'd be a good idea, and a lot of the times if someone in management says do something, I just do it. Yeah. I was actually thinking, why do a podcast? Like, why do I want to talk about it? Because I don't really need to feel good about myself. So it's interesting, but I thought it's a form of therapy maybe. I think
maybe, does it help you understand?
I think talking to people is always good, so I think that's great. But I was thinking about that. Why? Because I'm not after fame or anything.
I've been trying to get you for years, do an interview with you for so long, Anthony. You've been one of my guests that I've wanted on this show for years.
Well,
and you've always said no.
I don't know if it was me.
No, it was decided that you were too busy. And of course you were too busy, whatever.
Or maybe they were worried about me and my brain.
You were not in the right place. So I was going to say, when you first decided to speak about it, they say that, and maybe this is why Paul encouraged you to do it, somewhere out there is someone with a wound in the shape of your words. So you talking about it made someone else go, or many people go, oh, me too. Like, oh, thank God. I thought I was the only one. And he seems all together. But actually he also has panic attacks and has these irrational fears. But when you do that, the upside is that people say, oh, me too, and you might feel better. But it can also be a lot having everyone then tell you their stories of mental health. What was that time like for you when you first came out about it?
I didn't expect it to have any – I just spoke about it because I actually didn't realise that I had a problem. When we were in the 90s, we'd be on the tour with the Wiggles and Murray came up to me and said, mate, are you okay? Like, basically not are you okay because that wasn't there then. But she said, it's not normal to be going back in your dressing room and not coming out for a couple of hours and just –
and you would do what in there? Cry and
go, what am I doing here? What am I –
Yeah.
So, well, I did get a lot of people writing to me and I'd always write back, look, I'm really hanging there, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, just trying to give some empathy, which I did have, which I could express. But I started getting all these things to speak it. I said to Paul at the time, I'm not an expert. I'm not a psychologist. I can't speak giving people tips on how I do it because I'm struggling myself. So I never do the public speaking thing. Have you done that?
I've written about it. I've spoken about it. It can be a lot. Like I was out the other day, I've written, for example, about having a miscarriage late in my second pregnancy. And I was out sort of shopping the other day and someone came up to me and went, oh, and it's lovely, that thing you wrote, and then they want to tell you their story, which is an incredible honour.
Yep.
But it's also quite a lot, it's also can be quite a lot to take on other people's.
Yeah, that's right.
How do you navigate that?
And you're not a psychologist, but you can just have empathy and say, I'm really sorry, but that's about all.
Yeah.
Give them a hug, but everyone's got their own battles and I can't feel what other people feel, but we might feel the same. But it's a wild one.
I was thinking that depending on the age of the person, I've watched and listened to a lot of interviews that you guys have been doing to promote the documentary, which was so outstanding. And every single interviewer starts, and everyone you meet starts by telling you I listened to you, I watched you when my child was small, now my niece watched it, blah, blah, blah. And I watch you all, how you are so gracious and you meet people where they are and you act like this is the first time anyone's ever said that to you, that they've watched it or they remember it. What are the differences between the ages of the people who come up to you? Like if it's a woman my age, say, in her 50s, what does she say versus what a 20-year-old might say?
Well, a 20-year-old says, you were my childhood, and which is incredible.
Yeah.
Or you're such a big part of my childhood. Or I love you, you're part of my childhood. So as that character.
And what do you say to that?
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, it is fantastic.
Older people will say, my child, my this.
They'd say, I took my child to see you guys at the Reevesby Workers Club or what.
Yeah.
Or the other day someone came up to me and said they saw us in Townsville when the fans broke and it was really hot. And I remembered it was years ago. So just fun anecdotes, you know.
That you're this little part of the hearts of just so many people of so many generations.
Yeah, but it means a lot to us, you know. It's like all of us, New Wiggles, everybody, we all, we love that.
You seem like such an incredible, like a pure creative to me. Like you're a musician, you're a performer, you're incredibly creative. And I've noticed that people always want to ask you about the business of the Wiggles and you never want to talk about that, and people think that you're just being evasive, but my understanding is that you just can be disconnected from that. Is that right?
That's right. I'm terrible with business. I'm even terrible with my own. We've got an accountant, actually, I hope he doesn't hear this, and I was just thinking, I don't even know what he charges me for the last 30 years because I never look.
Yeah.
So we've got people who look after us.
That.
I don't like all that stuff, but I do love creating music, creating theatre, creating.
What was so great about the documentary is that people got to see how much thought went in behind everything. It's like the movements and the thinking and the actions, all of it was really through the lens of early childhood education.
Yep.
And what's interesting about that is that you guys then became rock stars, which was never really the plan.
No.
And then you weren't rock stars. Like what did happen? I'd forgotten about that, where you did have that sort of fall from grace and you went from doing, not even fall from grace, but you went like an evolution. You went from doing stadiums to doing little church halls again.
Yeah. So when the boys left and Sam took over, well, Sam stepped in, and then when Sam left, the press, it was a strange thing because I've never actually understood what we did wrong because it's never been explained.
It was more just there'd never been scandal, right?
Yeah, it was a perception that we were mean-spirited or something.
Yeah.
And it was really strange because at the time, I was not involved in the discussions, but I'd been told that, you know, if everything's signed away and non-disclosure, you have to write. So I never said a word.
But the going from being like Madison Square Garden, then you built it back up again. So my question, I guess, was going back to church halls. Yeah. Because you could have left then too, right? Because Greg and Murray
and
left
Jeff.
and Jeff, they left. So you were the only OG.
Yeah.
Why did you want to keep going? Like, what was it?
Oh, I just love it. And doing church halls to me is just as much fun as doing Madison Square Garden.
Is it?
Yeah. And
how is it different?
Just bigger crowd. And my family, like if we're at home and Mum's there, like she wants me to get the banjo out and play her some tunes, and I do. Or if we go visit children in the hospital and you're just playing music. Or if we do adult shows.
That's a new thing.
Yeah.
Which is so great.
Yeah, and they're just so much fun because you can be a bit more risque, you know, with your jokes. But it's all just music. It's all just communicating. It's all just the church halls were great. They were great at the start. They were great in the middle.
Like becoming rock stars as you were, I imagine life gets a bit easier, right? So you stay at nicer hotels. You've got, you know, more people around you. You get to maybe travel on planes instead of just always on a bus. Like it's nicer. The comforts, the luxuries, not to say that's why you're doing it, but I would imagine that on the way up, that's a nice perk of the job. So when that goes away and you're back to church halls, all of that stripped back.
Yep.
There's got to be a moment where you're just like, oh.
So that was Lockie, Emma and Simon when they started. I was more worried for them. I was going, look, this is how we started. It's just
So going back to the beginning was not a problem for you?
Oh no, I didn't mind, and I also always believed that it's like play school. The people in play school change, the presenters, but play school's play school. So hopefully the Wiggles are the Wiggles, no matter who's doing it. And that's what I was thinking about with the SAB thing. I was thinking, well, presenters could change all the time, like in TV, radio. There really wasn't anything devious about it, but anyway.
People wanted to create drama where there was none, is what you're saying.
But with Emma, and Simon, I kept saying, look, just wait till we get on TV, because if we get on TV, that things will change. At the moment. And we did a show out at Bidwell, and this is when I knew, and we were in a preschool, and they didn't know any Wiggle songs. They didn't know who we were. And that's when I said to Simon, we really are out of the psyche.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was,
and how do you fall out of the psyche? How does that happen?
Because children, are only in that early childhood wave for 3 to 5 years max, and then they move on. So there's a day with your children where they go, play school's baby.
Yep.
Wiggles are for babies.
Absolutely. But then if there's always more coming in.
But we were off the television for a while.
Is that the key?
Yeah. If you're off TV, but now with YouTube it's different. The whole thing's different now.
Tell me how it's different, because you don't need a television show. You've got your own because you've got YouTube.
Not as much anymore, because there's smart TVs and YouTube where children can just dial up the Wiggles anytime they want.
Yeah.
But in the old days, not long ago, TV was everything. And that's what happened in America. So we were massive, and Disney wanted to buy us. I remember we all had a bit of a meeting and we said, well, what are we going to do if they buy us? What do we do? So we went, oh, no. Then we went from 4 times a day on the channel and they got rid of us basically.
Because you wouldn't sell to them.
They want to own us, and I understand that. And
they want to promote things that they own on their channel,
And so the cycle of Wiggles in America
got broken.
But in Canada, it's still massive because we've still always been on the television there.
Is it possible to break back in?
Absolutely, because the children
you've always got another opportunity with more children being born.
Yeah, and we've just signed on for Netflix and a couple of TV stations over there. So, we could still go and tour there. But
how important is touring for the business now and for also being within the zeitgeist?
Well, these are the business things I do know, that when COVID came, we lost 85% of our business because we were just tour-based. But it made us think about the digital world and that we should really spend more time on YouTube, which we had not done, and we missed the boat. So in Australia, you've got Bounce Patrol. They're in Melbourne. They're massive on YouTube. And Miss Rachel's just the best. You've got to check her out.
I will check her out.
She is very impressive. She's so good.
So you had to rebrand but also have a new strategy.
Refocus. And for me that was fun because we've got a studio out at Bella Vista. We just started making content this last year just for YouTube, and it's been fun, man. It's so much good fun to get back into it. And our YouTube channel's going up and up and up. So,
because are you now appealing to the kids of the kids who grew up watching you?
Yeah, it's sometimes even grandkids, believe it or not.
Yeah, wow. Because my son grew up watching you and he's just become a father.
Yeah, there you go.
So my granddaughter, I'll be like, watch what I used to watch and watch what your dad used to watch.
It's very hard to imagine, but I could be a grandfather, but
you could.
I started way late.
You did? Why? Why did you start at 42?
I just didn't feel it was the thing for me. You know? Yeah.
You didn't find the right person?
I don't even know. I don't think I was ready. I think the right person had come along a few times.
Yeah, and just you weren't ready.
Yeah, I wasn't together, but probably still not together.
Stay with us because shortly Anthony talks about the business side of the Wiggles, which is something no one really talks about, and money. And he also tells me what happened when the Wiggles became woke. We'll be right back.
I was going to ask you about being eligible bachelor because I remember that. That's a little piece of your history that a lot of people probably wouldn't remember, but I was working in magazines at the time, not Cleo, but my friend was the editor, and she made you Australia's most eligible bachelor. Cleo, name? Paula Joy. How old were you and what sort of point in your career with the Wiggles was it?
So that was I think, 2000, which
Was
is
it?
23 years ago, which was
Yeah.
probably 37, something like that.
Yeah. So you were obviously still single. You had to be.
Yeah.
So all the mothers that I knew would watch the Wiggles. You were always the hot one. I know you're looking modest, but you were always the hot one. And we would always want to know what was going on behind the scenes of your lives and everything, because there's not a lot to think about when you're watching a kids show as an adult generally. When you were made eligible Bachelor of the Year, because being a kids performer is a fairly desexualizing thing, right? But you were a young bloke.
Yep.
Did it feel like, oh, I can be like a man rather than this sort of person in a skivvy?
Yep. I took it very cynically. I looked at it and thought, I haven't got a six-pack, which I didn't at the time they've done this, because it's just flipping the whole thing on its head. But then also there was a guy, when they did the David Average was at the awards ceremony at Catalina's.
How do I remember that? Yeah.
And the cameras were coming close, and there was a guy next to me who was a paediatric heart surgeon, and I thought, well, if someone deserves to be Bachelor of the Year, it's him.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I was clapping him. I thought, what's going on? But the crazy thing was, this is before, it must have been before the internet was.
Yeah, it was. There wasn't
because-
much internet in 2000 and
maybe it
way
was
before
2000,
social
maybe it was
media.
Before, I don't even know. But I got letters at Wiggles, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of letters.
Not the usual kind of fan mail that you would get before.
And with photographs, all sorts of things.
Wow.
And I thought, well, where were you the day before I was the Bachelor? Because I was this lonely guy going back to my place with my mini fox terriers that I bred, and I was not
feeling very like hot.
Bachelor of the Year.
You weren't feeling very eligible.
No, this came. Good thing was I got on a plane the next day and I flew to America and I got away from it.
Yeah.
But Paul Paddock, Captain Feathersword, who's a great mate, been with him forever with the Wiggles. Do you remember the answering machines you used to have?
Very well.
Okay, he got in because we shared a flat.
Yeah.
He changed my answering machine message to, "This is Anthony from the Wiggles. I am the Bachelor of the Year this year and I'm very happy to leave a message." And I didn't know, and people were ringing me up going, "What?" I'm talking to me saying, "Your message." And I go, what?
You wanker.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi, I'm Anthony. I'm Australia's most eligible Bachelor. Leave me a message.
He thought it was great.
Because now I saw a whole thing about, is it Johnny, one of the new guys, who's like a thirst trap, as the kids
really
say.
is, yeah.
Like a thirst trap. I feel like it's not a deliberate thing. It's a happy accident. But how do you navigate that?
Okay, here's the thing about John. So I met John. He was in Justice Crew. Do you remember Justice
I do.
Crew? So we used to meet John always at Carol's in the Domain. Justice Crew we playing. And him and his brother Lenny, they're great fellas. Now, I live in Gladesville, and I didn't know that John lived in Gladesville till I went to Toto's Pizza, which is on the corner of Victoria Road. And he would always be there with his, what I found out now is his cousin who has Down syndrome. And he'd always be in there having a pizza. And I go, this guy's it just been so lovely. And I thought, this guy's just a great fella. So we became real good mates. And then he told me about his mum was from the Philippines and just a good guy, man. And he was trying out for the fire department. Now, we all think it was so he could do the calendar.
Oh, yeah. Hot fireman.
But he didn't make the fire department. And then when the Wiggles were recasting, that's right.
That's a travesty that he didn't make the fire department.
It was
I'm outraged. Who can I complain to?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's
done pretty well for himself in the end.
Well, so when he became a Wiggle, his Instagram was full of, because he'd get sponsorship from, I don't know who it was, but ones where he'd be sitting, they'd take a photo of him sitting at the table without his shirt on, eating.
Wow.
But he is the most down-to-earth.
Yeah.
He just loves fitness, and his wife, Jess, they're just a great couple. I think that's
He's
what
married,
works.
so he can't even be he's not even a bachelor.
He's not a bachelor, but
he seems too young to be married. How old is he?
I think he's 32.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty. But
As you get older, everyone
childhood
looks younger.
sweethearts.
Oh, that's a nice story.
Yeah, but he's just a sweet guy. But you're right. How do you navigate that as a Wiggle?
Yeah.
Because
You got to be appropriate at all times.
there's also sexist double standards.
Speak to me of that.
Sure.
Objectifying guys,
Yeah.
you mean?
Well, my sister, Alice,
Yeah.
when that first came out, she would write, "Do not objectify him."
About you?
No, not me, about John.
Okay, yeah.
John. But
she's defending Johnny's honour.
yeah, but she was on the other hand was telling me that she was hot for John as well. So it was,
She's like, back off, bitches, he's mine.
so he understands now if he's in the skivvy, he's in the skivvy. If he's not in the skivvy, he's really not in the skivvy.
He's really not in the skivvy.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, I don't want to probe into business, but I just want to understand it. Who owns the Wiggles?
Well, the original Wiggles were the owners, but then
The four of you?
Yeah, the four of us. But then Greg got sick and he left, and we had to pay Greg out, which was a lot of money, and
Based on future earnings,
all that
all
stuff.
of those kind.
And,
Wow.
And
okay.
they call it the ginger spice clause. So whoever leaves first gets. I think Ginger was the first to
She
go.
was.
Yeah, gets the most amount. But not saying that.
No,
it
no,
wasn't
I
all
understand.
Greg. Greg was very sick and he wanted.
Yeah, of course. And so you had to project future earnings, and that's tough because Greg leaving was going to affect future earnings because he was the voice of the
That's
OGs.
right. That's right. So it was something had never been said before, but
Yeah.
we were in a lot of debt around that time. So we had to work through that as well.
And it was funny because there was backlash earlier when you guys were really, not backlash, but commentary, a bit of snide commentary about how much money you'd made and you were on the rich list, and people didn't like that, as if there was something exploitative about being children's entertainers
Yep.
but actually making money out of it, like you should do it for free.
Yep. I always viewed the money making as we can pour it straight back in and make television, all that sort of stuff, because we had to make it all ourselves because the ABC would just take our programs, but they weren't co-funding. They only co-funded one series we did, which means we only got nominated for one Logie in the whole time we've been going, which is not sour grapes. It's just that's how it happens.
People sniped that you made a lot of money,
Yeah.
and then in actual fact,
We're-
people don't understand that it
when
cost a
Greg
lot of
left-
money to be a Wiggle,
Well,
to run the Wiggles.
Yeah, and when Greg left, we had to pay him out and we were in so much debt. And I think that's another reason with Sam why we couldn't come to whatever party that we were supposed to come to.
So it then went from being the performers owning it to the performers being employees of the Wiggles more.
Yeah, that's
Because they weren't the founders.
true. Now so there was 3 shareholders. But see, the shareholders, this is what people don't realise. Well, they do realise it, and directors, that you take the debt. So
You don't just get to say, it's great being a shareholder, we'll just take the profits.
yeah, that's it. And at the time,
and you take the risk as well.
well, at the time when we got all that bad press, people didn't know that we were actually millions of dollars in debt, and they were going, "Sam has been called just an employee." But
It's like at least he has a stable paycheck. You don't if
that's
you're
right.
an owner. You've
So
just
we-
got debt.
That's why when Sam left, that was when everyone was going, "Well, you have to sell the business." I was going, "No, I don't want to. We'll work through this." So then when we went to Broken Hill and we're playing to 50 people,
Yeah.
it was really scary. But so back to your original question, who owns the Wiggles now?
Yeah.
So there's 5 of us.
So even the guys that left,
Like, Emma was a shareholder as well.
sorry, even though Jeff and Murray left, they're still shareholders.
Yeah.
Who's the boss?
There's no real boss, but
Creatively, you're clearly the boss.
creatively, they let me do that, and they're really happy to do that. But
Who's they?
Murray and Jeff. I have the most shares, but not by much. But
everyone's literally invested in making it work.
But see, I know that Jeff's a businessman. That's his strength. Mine's creative. Murray's good with coming in and talking about early childhood. He's very good with the early childhood and keeps us grounded. And Simon's, again, brilliant with so much. His experience in the theatre world. He was the Phantom of the Opera. He's been around forever. And he's just a nice man. And
Is Paul the CEO?
no, Paul's son is now the general manager.
Okay.
So it's a little bit complex.
No, I understand. It's kind of like it evolves, right?
Yeah, so Luke Field is the general manager. Kate Kyoto is production manager. They're equal.
So a big decision has to be made. Should we tour to the States? Should we invest in being on TikTok? Should we do this new show based around a circus theme? How is that decision made?
Okay, with the world of Spotify, we have a music guy, Nick web, and he understands what's needed at Spotify, but he'll come to me and he'll say, we need a lullaby album, we need a sleep album, here's what we need. And then I'll go, okay, I'll get it done.
Right.
So if he gives me the rundown, I can get it done. Or we recently did something really good, which was a curricula for dance schools of ballet and hip hop. And I got Johnny and Sahai, who are hip hop aficionados. So they came up with the words, but I helped with the music and kept it early childhood. Because if you're not early childhood trained, you're going to usually shoot above the age.
Interesting.
So we brought it down, but that was a really good fun. And the ballet, so in the Wiggles at the moment, we've got Evie Ferris, who's Australian ballet. Lucia, my daughter, she's Australian Ballet School. She was. So they know the ballet. And Katerina, she's choreographed and she does the ballet. So we've done this for the schools and it's sold into a whole lot of schools. It's going to be exciting. So it is exciting. Yeah.
You seemed very much to be the driving force behind the decision to be more inclusive and more gender equal.
Yep.
The critics said woke, as if that was somehow a bad thing to be gender equal and inclusive. What was the thinking behind that when you did it? Why did it mean so much to you?
Well, it meant everything to me, but also even at the time in Wiggles, there were people who were just going, why are you doing this? This is not good. This is confusing.
Because it wasn't necessarily popular.
Even amongst us. But again, with that fatalistic thing, I was going, before I die, we've got to be gender balanced. We've got to be more.
What made you think that?
I just look into the audience, and at the time, even though we were all men in the last Wiggles, it was all about Emma. We made it all about Emma. I put Dorothy aside. We had a real woman now, which was great. And she was a role model for all the girls. But I think with our focus, we became too much about one, not about the group.
And that's high risk, right? Because it's about one person.
That is, if you look at it like that. But I wasn't looking at it as high risk. I was going, because Emma wasn't a risk. She's, she's great. And but it was more, it's not reflective. There's only one sort of girl, basically, who are coming to the shows.
So she has to be every girl because she's only one girl.
That's right.
Oh, I get it.
And the boys, we became like Gladys Knight and the Pips, which I didn't really think, even though Gladys Knight's brilliant.
Amazing,
But the Pips are good too. Yeah. So if we give, like at the show, you just see yellow because we just give it all about Emma. But I thought, wouldn't it be great if you saw yellow, purple, red and blue at the show and different personalities? So when we first did it, Fruit Salad TV, Emma was still part of it. And it was pretty unexpectedly she left. I didn't know that was going to happen for a while. And she left and Lucia came in then. Yeah, but not as yellow. But what's happened now with Sahai there and Evie, we've had African Australians coming to the show. We get boys coming to the show now with weights to be Big Strong John.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, yeah.
You tick the age diversity box. You've gone from being the hottie
to the old guy.
Ticking the granddad box. Isn't it great that we can have old people dancing as well?
Again, my sister Alice, she writes that. She tells me that. But people asked us, why did you not make the 4 colours and then have 4 brand new colours? Like, because we've got 8 people, so 2 blue, 2 red, 2 yellow, 2 purple.
Yep.
Why would you think that, Mia?
Well, because then it just becomes a rainbow. Like those 4 colours are like the Wiggles brand. Is that why?
Yeah, that's why. But it was also James Harkness who came out and did some filming with us. He's a great performer. He's an African-American guy who said to me early on, he was really the one that put the rocket up me. He went, it's just a white man's club at the moment. And what I mean by white man, you're all blue-eyed, you've all got white, pale skin, and even though you do songs from other cultures, it's not reflective.
And you always have. I remember that.
Yeah, we've always done that. And he's the one that said,
Interesting.
If you change the colours. I said, what, do we get an orange one, a green?
Yeah.
He said, no, because the white men's club will still be the Wiggle colours.
It's true.
So what he was saying was that if you bring an orange guy in, the African guy's orange. Oh, isn't he good enough to be blue, red, purple,
I see.
yellow?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what he meant. He's basically saying that you'll be sending out
the B team.
The B team. And then we got a real – people were going, why didn't you make other colours? Like there was another backlash.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But you get –
people don't like change, do they?
No, they don't.
Is that what you've learned?
Yep. Yeah.
And yet as a creative and a performer, change is what makes you come alive. Like I even watch your appearance has changed. Then it's about circus. You all learning to train to be circus performers, to make a circus-themed show. Is that your creative drive?
Yeah, and I encourage everybody in the Wiggles to be proficient at their instruments when we play live. We don't have any tape when we play live. So the Cheers become this great, brilliant drummer. Johnny's playing guitar. He never played guitar before. And so I just encourage everyone. And I think if you keep the creative, you keep working at your skills. But I got to say, what I've done as the years have gone, I've stopped dancing on stage. I just play the music. Yeah, I just sort of gave up.
Why did you?
I never really enjoyed dancing too much.
No, I know, but that was quite fun. You were kind of a daggy dad dancer.
Yeah, the daggy dad or the drunk uncle at the party.
Kind of a drunk wiggle though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciated that. Yeah. I think you made people feel very seen.
Yeah, well, dads could relate to it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Did you love that? I loved that. I honestly did. He was so disarming to talk to. I had expected his guard to be up, but it just wasn't, as you heard. And so, of course, I kept asking him questions in this second part of our interview, which you can listen to right now via the link in the show notes. I asked him about his relationship with his kids after being away for 9 months of the year while on tour, every year for a really, really long time. And he also told me a story which is painful but hilarious and embarrassing about a medical incident that he had and how you really can't remain an anonymous patient when you're a wiggle.
The nurse is checking, like I'm totally
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
she's holding
got the picture. Yeah.
Holding what's happened in her hand.
Yeah.
And she looks up and goes, "Aren't you that guy from the Wiggles?"
Oh.
I said, "Yeah."
Yeah, I am. Mm-hmm.
And in my head I was dying. I was going, "Please make this end."
There's a lot more to listen to if you click by the link in the show notes. And if anything in this conversation has affected you, please call Lifeline on 13 11 14. The executive producer of No Filter is Kimberly Bradish, with sound production by Madeline Joannou, and I'm Mia Friedman.